This is episode number 398 of the InnerFight podcast, brought to you by Smith Street Paleo. And today is a show of maybe something a little bit different. I am going to be interviewed by our co-host. We are both co-hosts. Andre is going to take the mic, and as the title suggests, this show is all about the accident I sustained 10 days ago.
Yeah.
It's actually quite hard for me to talk a lot, so you might get some very short answers.
Easy. Very recently, man, you were hit by a truck, which is going to be the caption of this podcast. Why don't you tell us exactly what happened in the situation?
It's quite hard to describe. Actually, for some people, I've drawn them a diagram because it's been quite a lot easier. But essentially, we were going down a quite a big road, dual carriageway, no cars on it. Haven't seen a car
on your bicycle.
On our bicycles. There was four of us. We're training in the mountains, which is on the way to Kalba, just past Sharjah here in the Emirates. And up ahead, I saw what I'd call a light loader. It's like a 5-ton truck. And basically, it made a U-turn, and now it's on our side of the road. We've got 2 lanes on our side of the road, plus a very big hard shoulder.
Yep.
We're coming down at about 50 kilometers an hour. My bike and my body, cumulatively, is the heaviest weight of all the 4 of our riders. So when we go downhill, my bike, with no extra effort, actually goes faster.
And how much is that a total in weight?
The total weight, so I weigh 88, plus the bike itself weighs 8, plus I had about 10 kilos of luggage on there.
Okay.
Because I was training for these ultra races. So I pass all the guys. We ride in single file to be safe on the road. I pass all the guys, and I'm now the first bike.
Pain train formation.
Pain train formation. So they're sitting on my wheel. We're not pedaling. We're going 50 k's an hour.
Boom.
So it's not a massive decline. Just to put that in a little bit of perspective, when we descend on a big decline, we'd go about 85 to 90 k's an hour. So,
and to put that in another perspective, like at DFC last year, 2 years ago, like for 1 hour or for the 38k drive, people are going like 36, 37 kilometers an hour, like at max speed. So
we're doing about double what you do on the flat at least. So we see this truck, and we're approaching it quite quickly, and we're in the hard shoulder. So we would never really, we sometimes do have to pass trucks, but I would never overtake a truck on its outside, mainly because of the fact that there's a lot of cars. Like, your risk of overtaking someone and going into fast lane is quite high, just in case a speeding car comes down, although it was quite quiet.
Yeah.
So we're on the hard shoulder, which is a big area. On our right-hand side, there's a wall that's running down, and the easiest way to describe it is a low-lying wall, and it has concrete pillars which are about 1 meter square every 4 or 5 meters to hold a fence in between.
Yep.
And when we came up to the truck, just at the last minute, I heard Jack shout, "Go left." He was screaming, "Left, left," he's turning.
At this point, we have the car on the left side.
So the car is a little bit on our left.
The wall is on the right.
The wall is on the right. And so Nick, who was in the second wheel, Alistair on the third wheel, Jack on the fourth wheel, all slammed on their brakes and broke hard to the left. Luckily, there was no car coming down the fast lane, the inside lane, and they passed. I was too close to the van, to the truck, and I had to make a decision. What essentially the truck was doing, and why Jack said go left, is the truck at the very last minute was making a right angle turn to go in through a break in the wall.
So taking over you guys.
Yeah, so taking straight in front of us. So the wall, there was a break in the wall of about 3 meters, which this utility truck was obviously going in to do some farming work or something like that. So if you visualize it, we're coming straight. I now have a truck that essentially I'm going to T-bone.
Boom.
I went a little bit to the right while screaming at the guy. At the last minute, he put his indicator on. So obviously makes everything all right. I'm screaming at this...
It's your fault then.
Yeah, it's now my fault. I'm screaming at this guy and veering to the right. All I can see is his car and then the wall. And a little gap in the wall. So he hits his front right side of the truck, hits my front wheel pretty hard. I'm traveling at 45 k's an hour because I've just braked, so we reckon the speed. I actually need to go and pick up my bike. It's still in the police station. We'll come to that later. And my bike and me then get pushed because of the collision towards this pillar, this wall. I then fly in the air with my bike still attached to me, and I hit that wall. And it was probably, of everything that could have happened, I probably hit it in the most desirable or perfect way that I could, in that I rotated my body and took the whole blow through my left shoulder and my left ribs. I could have hit it with my head.
Yeah.
I could have hit it with my face. Like, I could have hit it in so many other ways, and I would have almost, if I'd have hit it head on, I would have probably been paralyzed on impact or just died immediately on impact.
This is just a crazy story.
Yeah.
When you hit a car like that, what was the next step? You fly, you land.
Yeah.
Where are the guys? How
So-
do you feel? What goes through your head?
I literally, so then I've hit the wall and I'm on the floor. And one of the guys got there very quickly, and the bike was still attached to me. So he managed to get the bike off me. And it was this is why the whole thing it's quite a miracle, really, because when he removed the bike, I was immediately in the recovery position.
And that's laying on you.
So
right
I'm
side,
laid on my right side.
left side is crushed.
Head here, left side is crushed. And there was 2 or 3 things that happened pretty much immediately. The first thing that happened was I moved my head, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I was fully conscious. I wasn't knocked out or anything. And I was like, wow, that's very cool. I can move my head so my neck's all right, so my spine's all right.
Instantly, that's just the first thing people check, right?
Yeah. I don't know what order these things happen in, mate, because obviously it was it was a slow process, but it's also quite a quick process, and I've obviously been through a few things since then. Hands, so I started moving my hands, started wriggling my feet. And I think I felt like a bit of relief.
Yeah.
But the next thing I thought is, I've been hit so hard, I can't breathe. So it was like being winded worse than you've ever been winded before. And I knew immediately, because I'd figured out what I'd done, I knew immediately that something was broken here.
You've been winded a few times in rugby, I assume.
Yeah, and this was like the worst winding I'd ever had. So I was like, shit, like, I think my ribs are broken, I think my shoulder's broken. I actually thought my collarbone was broken, and the pain that started coming from there was pretty painful, excruciating straight away. And I don't know how long it took, and that's why I can't really put these in a sequence. And then I saw the guy get out the van, the truck, this light loader truck, and he basically, I could see this look of fear in his face, and I just started absolutely ripping into him. I was laying on the floor. I was trying to shout as loud as I could, but
how could you even have energy for that?
Mate, I don't know. It's just my immediate reaction. His face was like he'd seen a ghost, because he's looking at me, and I think he'd seen, because what happened is, on impact, my lungs got compressed, which caused my left lung to, it's called a contusion. It's like I think the easiest way to describe it is like a split in the left lung. And what that does is 2 or 3 things. It pushes air out into the rib cage. So that's the winding, and that's why you can't breathe, because this air is pushing against your rib cage. It has nowhere to go. And at the same time, on the inside of the lungs are bleeding. So then what happens is basically, and this was again quite amusing,
respiratory system must be just basically shut down almost.
Well, yeah, it does. And the blood, that you have immediate internal bleeding. And so what then started to happen was, like you see pretty much in the movies, where someone gets shot or gets hit, and blood starts to just pour out of their mouth, and you're like, yeah, that was just ketchup they put
Everyone
in there.
can kind of relate to that. I've seen that at
You've
least.
seen it. And by this stage, Nick was there, and after I'd finished abusing the truck driver, or whilst I was doing it, he was like patting me on. And Nick's the nicest guy. Really, really super nice guy. Uber positive and just a great guy to be around. He's like, Marcus, just, he's almost just stroking me. He's like,
no weakness,
just
come on.
calm down. Don't try and kill the truck driver. This blood's coming out, and I'm going to Nick. I'm going, shit, this stuff only happens in movies. And this blood's all coming out, and I'm abusing the truck driver. He's obviously seen this blood come out of my mouth, and he's kind of shitting himself because he thinks I'm going to die.
Are you consciously aware of all these things
I know
happening?
exactly what's going on, yeah. That's why I can tell the story, mate. No one's had to really piece anything together for me and know exactly what happened. I only hit my head very lightly. I mean, it broke my helmet, but that wasn't the main impact.
Okay, blood started coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, blood starts coming out of my mouth, and I think it was at that point that I consciously tried to start breathing again and couldn't. So a lot of things went through my head in a short space. I think one of the biggest things was like, fuck, this guy just hit me and I'm going to die.
Yeah.
I'm going to die right here. And like, yeah, I think that was the, and I said to myself, I was like, I don't really want to die here. It's quite weird because it's like, you don't, like, if I ask anyone, no one really wants to die.
Of course not.
And so, but it wasn't stressing me out, but I was like, I don't really want to die yet. And then I was like, yeah, but I don't have any choice because I have no oxygen. And this was the problem of my consciousness, is that I knew exactly where we were. So we're 40 kilometers from this coastal town called Kalba, and I think it's about 70, it might be longer, 80 kilometers from the nearest big emirate, which is Sharjah. So your brain starts saying and calculating, well, to get me an ambulance, like, there is nothing out there, it's the mountains. To get me an ambulance is going to take at least 40 minutes. And I could hear the guys going, call 999, what is the number? And I'm like, well, this is mayhem. Because the thing is as well, mate, it's like, what really is the number?
It is 999.
Yeah, but in other countries it's something different.
Yeah. And
for fire here, it's 997.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, I've been here quite a long time, and I'm not, and the emergency services here are very good, but actually I think getting them to a location sometimes is a bit of a challenge. And so I'm there on the floor, and I'm like, well, I'm going to die here. And then I made a decision. I was like, well, that sounds like that's not the right thing to do, sort of thing. I was like, I don't really want to die. And so what I did, I said to myself, I was like, well, the problem is, and this was my problem, is that I couldn't breathe. And to try and allow people to understand what that felt like, it's almost like this is the sort of analogy I've used for people. It's like when someone pushes your head under the water when you're a kid as a joke and doesn't let you up.
Yeah.
You're just like, shit, I've got one more breath, or I've got one more second, and then there's no oxygen. It's a very awkward feeling not having oxygen.
But you don't feel like your body's just going, like, the alarm system just ringing and like buzzing the whole body.
Yeah.
Because like when you say that feeling of being underwater and like, not being able to breathe, your whole body just starts to freak out.
Yeah. I think my body was in shock from the impact, mate. And I was also in an excruciating amount of pain, which makes you breathe a little bit shallower.
Yeah. You start hyperventilating.
You almost start hyperventilating.
Fast, small breaths. And
what I asked the guys, I said, I need water. They tried to wash his blood off my mouth. And literally the whole while I'm just going... bearing in mind that to pull oxygen in expands the lungs, which pushes on these newly fractured ribs that I have. So that was kind of the first thing. And then I think when I was on the floor, mate, I was like, I'd done a quick stock take of everything that was going on, and my nerd side probably came in, and I was like, right, well, this is going to take some time, so don't stress about that. They were saying, like, you know, people try and console you and try and say, like, the 10 minutes. Dude, if you can't breathe and someone says, like, they were doing their best, mate, but someone says to me 10 minutes, like, I couldn't focus. It's almost like, what are you going to be doing in 2050? You're going to be alive in 2050, Andre. What are you going to be doing? Like, just try and figure it out. It's too far away.
10 minutes.
So, like, 10 minutes is just forever. So, I said to myself, I said, well, the way that you're going to stay alive is just by focusing on each individual breath. And that's what I did, mate. I was just like, one in and out. And it was just like I said before, it was like...
Right. Just like one foot in front of the other.
Just one foot in front of the other. And, you know, I don't know how much longer it was. And the guys were just heroes, mate. Like, Jack carried on. He knew there was a police station 1K up the road. So he carried on and rode his bike up there. He said pretty much as fast as he's ever ridden, but I'm not sure. I need to check his Garmin file. and he, again, like, the difficulty of the language barrier, he's trying to explain to the police what's happened, and the police are probably on a cigarette break and just chilling, and, you know, it's like someone runs into the police station, all mayhem, and they've actually come back I was told it was about 20 minutes later with a police ambulance that was under renovation. Oh, so it was basically a van with a stretcher on the back. And meanwhile, something, again, absolutely miraculous has happened, and I really got to track this guy down. I'm not sure how I start and find him, but I remember all of it, which is maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing. This guy rocked up on his bike. He's a Filipino guy, and he said, "Hey guys, my name's Alex. I'm a paramedic. Do you mind if I help you?"
What is a paramedic exactly?
So the paramedic is someone who is in an ambulance. Is the medic in an ambulance. Okay. He was just having a ride. He was just riding his bike. And he goes, "Hey, my name's Alex. Do you mind if I help you?" By this stage, there was quite a lot of people around. I remember that. I couldn't move too much, so I couldn't really see what was going on. But it was quite mayhem. And Nick's trying to take care of me. He's obviously quite in distress because he can see that I'm in a lot of trouble. And this guy, Alex, just took over. He's like, "Right, you do this, you do this, you do this." It's incredible as well. That luggage that I had in my bike was fantastic. I had my sleeping bag in there, I had my jacket in there. They were able to put that, like, my sleeping bag was under my head. They wrapped me in the jacket. Jack had an emergency blanket. They put that around me to keep me warm because I started to go cold. I started to go into shock. All of these things happening. So we had all this equipment. Again, it's a miracle. It couldn't have been a better accident in a way. And this guy, Alex, like, the police ambulance arrived. They didn't really know and they didn't understand. Like I was saying to Nick, my ribs are broken, my shoulder's broken, don't touch them. And they're trying to pull this arm and they're trying to put me on a spinal board. And I was like, I just can't. I'm the most comfortable in this position. When they moved me, the pain increased. With the increase in pain, my breathing got even less, got even shallower. So eventually, under Alex's supervision, they got me in the back of a police ambulance. It was incredibly uncomfortable, but I was on the way. In there, Nick managed to figure out how to switch on this super old oxygen thing. And I just remember all this like dirty water just dripping out of it, but it was pushing with oxygen, so it was cold and wet. And he just rammed it on my face. And I think that was about 20 minutes, half an hour after the crash. So that was the first time it was probably the most unhygienic and the most unsafe oxygen mask I've ever seen.
But at this stage, nothing really matters, right?
At this stage, it was
about surviving.
Yeah, and he put that on my face, and then again, I knew where we were going because they'd said, right, there's an ambulance on the way from Calba to here. We're going towards Calba. We're going to meet them on the way, and we're going to put you into that ambulance. In that ambulance, I haven't had any painkillers yet. In that ambulance, they've got painkillers. They've got, it's a proper full-on ambulance, and they're going to take us to Calba Hospital. So there's a little bit of solace in that as well, mate. But it was still the same. That was like 15 minutes away. And, Nick's trying to do his best. Marcus will be there in 15 minutes. I'm just
Can you even at this point think of anything else than one breath at a time? Do you kind of see your life?
I wasn't. No,
kind
no.
of like past, like you
no,
see your
mate,
wife.
No,
or you,
it didn't happen like that. Like, I've reflected on that a little bit. You know, where people say, "Oh, my life passed before my eyes." You know, I saw this and I saw that. It didn't. Like, the accident was in slow motion to a certain extent.
But do you think that's because of like survival instinct that, you know, your life started passing by you? I think that's almost a stage of, I don't know, not giving
Maybe
up, but
yeah.
like if you're just focusing one breath at a time, like that's probably the most efficient thing for like surviving.
Yeah, I guess, mate. I guess it's a really interesting topic, and maybe I'll see someone who's had a similar accident and we'll compare notes and stuff. Actually, a chick in Australia, a super famous
A triathlete.
five times world mountain bike champion and 5 times world BMX champion, had a very similar accident recently.
Okay.
She broke her sternum, didn't do anything to her ribs or her shoulder, and smashed her face up. She was in ICU as well. So I don't know, mate. I just like I said before, I was like, I like my life. I've lived it to the full, but I'm not ready to leave yet. It was literally like that. I was like, you know, because when I remember my feet position, I remember the truck position, I can remember everything. I could draw it for you perfectly on this table now. Like, I could draw the picture. If I was a good artist, I could draw it and you could see it. And I just said, I don't want to die.
Like all your senses are just like going crazy.
Yeah, that's it. That was it. And yeah, and the other ambulance came. They transferred me into that, which again, no painkillers so far. Had to move on to a different stretcher. Just
painful.
I can't explain the pain, and I don't want to try, and I don't want anyone to ever be in it. If anyone's ever had a serious operation or, you know, some serious health issues, they've been in a lot of pain, and no one can say which pain is worse. But it was terrible, and they stuck me in this other ambulance,
and then we're on the way to the hospital in
Calber, yeah.
Calber.
So they said, again, they give me a time frame. They're like, we'll be there in like 20 minutes. So it took probably about a good 10 minutes to transfer me to the other ambulance. So this is how the time built up. We're almost 2 hours from crash to actually getting to hospital. And in that ambulance, they hooked me up. They, you know, how they do with your pulse, with this, that, and the other. And he started giving me this oxygen, which had some, which actually provided me quite a bit of relief. And so that's about coming up to an hour where I got a little bit of relief. And I think from that point on, I wasn't fighting to breathe, but I knew my injuries were quite bad. I didn't really know how bad, but I knew they were quite bad. You know, you hear punctured lung, you hear this, that, and the other. I wasn't even thinking like maybe I've punctured a lung. I was just cruising somehow. And they were awesome. I remember this is quite a funny part of it. He said, right, I'm going to put an intravenous drip in this vein here. I've got decent veins, so it wasn't. But I couldn't move my left hand. I was holding this oxygen with some chemical on it in my mouth, and he needed this hand. So I could only move this hand this far because of the way I was laid in the ambulance.
Yeah.
So then he said to Nick, he said, can you hold the respirator in his mouth whilst I put this in? And I've later learnt that Nick is petrified of needles. So Nick's holding the oxygen in my mouth. Mate, the ambulance driver's doing a great job, but we're literally moving like this. Nick's having to lean over to keep this thing in my mouth, and he's having to look directly at this guy sticking this needle. Oh, and God. He told me all he was focusing on is not passing out. He's like, if I pass out now, this really screws things up.
Could you imagine?
Can you imagine that? And this guy, mate, he literally, my hand's here and the wall of the ambulance is here. He's literally got less than 20 centimeters to play with to get this IV into my hand. And he did it absolutely perfectly.
Wow.
The conditions that these paramedics work in is just something, it's insane. So then we arrive at the hospital, and it's quite weird because when you're on a spine board and you can only see, like, you can't look around, you're completely disorientated. And I just remember a lot of noise, and I said, Nick, you need to stand there, and you need to control these guys, and then just sort of just try and feed back to me what's going on, and you need to make decisions. Nick's a pilot with Emirates. He's a 777 pilot, so he's a captain. He knows exactly how to deal with people and pressure situations and stuff, and he just did an unreal job. Meanwhile, Jack and Alistair have been taken by the police back to get the cars, which was another 50.
Where's the hero Alex? He kept riding his bike.
Alex kept riding his bike. Alex,
just another day in the mountains, right?
I think there was some legal issue. Alex just said, guys, I can't come in that ambulance with you, but this is the story, and he briefed Nick. So Nick was now our latest sort of paramedic hero. And then we were so I'm now in the emergency room of the hospital, and it's a little bit ironic. They won't admit you to a hospital, and this is great learning for people. They won't admit you to a hospital without your Emirates ID. So I'm not in good shape, and they're waiting for my Emirates ID. During my crash, my phone, which was in my back pocket, Jack had taken it out. Didn't get scratched at all, luckily. And he's on the way back to the cars to bring all the cars and stuff so that everything's at Calba. So Nick's calling him, stood next to my hospital bed that I'm on, or this stretcher that I'm sprawled across, and I'm explaining to them where on my phone I keep my Emirates ID.
No way.
Yeah, so it's quite... I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to engrave my Emirates ID number on this road ID band, which is actually where they got Holly's number from to call Holly later on in the day and let her know. So a lot of tests, mate. They started giving me... I mean, one thing, the anaesthetist came in and his face kind of dropped, and they moved me into this other room, and the anaesthetist basically told everyone full emergency mode, resuscitation, respirator, like he got all the equipment in there.
What goes through your head when you hear that?
Mate, I literally was like, fuck. This guy obviously thinks I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And that was because I wasn't stable, mate, but I'd leveled out, like I'd started to deal with the pain a little bit. And
because obviously if you're totally out of breath, a lot of pain, laying in the road, and now you're at least in the hospital with oxygen, etc.
Yeah.
And then somebody comes in and say, emergency.
Yeah. And I was like, like I said before, I didn't know the extent of my injuries. And he said that, and I was like, oh my God. And he was the nicest guy. He was just a doctor with crazy haircut. He was from Iraq. He'd left there, I knew all his life. He'd left there in 2000 after things with Saddam Hussein, and had a big conversation about Saddam Hussein and Iraqi politics. Don't ask me why. I think it was to try and distract me, and he was like, mate, you're not going to be in any pain anymore. He said, I'm going to inject you with something now, and within a minute you're going to feel different. And he injected me with something, and he gave me a minute. He said, are you better? And he said, no, I can see it in your face you're not better. I'm going to give you some more. And he right away gave me another dose of pethidine, which is like morphine.
Yeah.
It kills pretty much everything. And then the thing is, the funny thing in the emergency room is like he's in charge of pain management. You've got a surgeon, you've got an orthopedic, you've got all these different people. So it's almost like, which is a great thing, it's a team effort, but they weren't gelling very well. Okay. And my left elbow was bleeding a lot, so they thought I'd broken my elbow. So they're trying to move my arm up, which even now I can't move my arm up because my scapula's broken. So they're putting me in more pain, and they put me through a series of x-rays, then a CT scan, and then again, it's like there was almost angels all along the way. The guy that did the CT scan, that doctor or radiologist, he was I think he was an Indian or a Pakistani guy. He had an incredibly big beard, very grey, and Dr. Shahad. And he came to me, and he spoke so softly. He told me, you've shattered your scapula, you've got multiple fractures of your ribs, and you have a lung contusion. He said, what we need to do is we need to insert a pipe through your ribs and into your lungs.
Okay.
And I called Nick straight away. I was like, Nick. I couldn't call anything. And I said, bring my friend. And I said, can you explain it to him? I'd understood it, and he was so calm. I was quite cool with it. I was just like, wow, they're going to put a pipe in here. And Nick Nick said to me, explained it again, and I said, "What do you think, mate?" He goes, "You need to do it." And for the next half an hour, they basically moved this arm, open up these ribs here, and they spent about half an hour pulling, pushing, jamming this tube through my ribs and into the area of my lung.
Man.
Because that area had filled up with oxygen, fluid, and blood. And they'd done that. And it's funny what you say, like, prepare for resuscitation and all this, because the next thing I remember hearing, the pain is still, like, extreme, but it's not as bad because he's giving me a load of pethidine, and he was giving it to me at regular intervals. I heard the anaesthetist say, prepare a bed in ICU.
And ICU stands for?
Intensive Care Unit.
Okay. And that is where there's, like, constant overview. There's, like, 10 doctors, something like that.
And I mean, but that's like the place of carnage. A lot of people, like when you've had trauma, people go into ICU. Some of them don't come out, and
I've seen ICU many times. It's crazy.
It's crazy, mate, and it's quite a brutal place. Like, hospitals are not great anyway, but the ward that I went to later at City Hospital was fine, and I was like, oh my god,
because you're surrounded with other people who are
who are also buckled. Yeah. So I'm like, geez, this is pretty serious. Like, I knew I was in trouble because of everything that I'd gone through, and but I was like, oh wow, I'm getting admitted to intensive care.
Has Holly been told by this point?
I'm not really sure, mate. Jack, I think they only told Holly when I was admitted to ICU. So this would have been about 12 midday. Accident was at 8:30. Got there about just after 10, 10:30. An hour or so of checks and this. Admitted to ICU. And then I think Jack, like I said, they took my Holly's number from my wristband. And Nick didn't know Holly. He hadn't met her. Alistair was a friend of Nick's living in Hong Kong, so he didn't know Holly. So Jack got the baton to call Holly, and she was telling me how it went. Like, her phone started ringing. She doesn't have Jack's number, and so it's a foreign number, like an unregistered number. And she said she wasn't going to answer it. And anyway, she answered it, and he's obviously gone, "Hey, Holly, it's Jack," and she's gone, "Oh, hey, Jack, what's happened?" So at the start she was super pumped about it, and then she's realised that the only reason he's calling is kind of for bad news. And he said, "Oh, nothing much." He said, or something along these lines. He said, "No, it's all good. We're just in Calba Hospital. Marcus had a small fall, and Mignon, Jack's wife, is on the way to pick you up. Pack an overnight bag."
Small fall, but pack an overnight bag.
Yeah, he wanted it to be prepared. Small fall, but pack an overnight bag. And she turned up at about 3:30, and this was probably one of the. There was a few quite hard bits along the way, but this was one of the hardest bits. I'd then been like a couple of hours in ICU. Just can't move, mate. I'm on my back in this bed, drugged up, falling in and out of sleep, not consciousness, but sleeping, bit dopey. And she just walked in, and it's horrific, mate. You're constantly under monitoring. So you've got all of these things, all of these clips on your heart. You've got a clip on your finger. I've got 2 drips in now, both rigged up to pumping liquids into my body. And
a tube in your ribs.
And the tube coming out of my ribs. I've also had a catheter put in.
Yeah.
So right down the eye of your penis, right to the base, so that you can piss. And then I've also got oxygen, nasal cannula, pushing oxygen because my blood oxygen level was quite low. So it's one of the pictures that I've still got, and it's absolutely, it must just have been like just horrific for her. It's like nothing you'd ever want anyone to have one of their loved ones to walk into. I saw this look in her face, and I mean, I'm in ICU. She's walked into ICU, and I was just like, oh shit, this is bad. And it was the same that she held it together, and I obviously couldn't, I didn't really have much feeling or anything at that stage, so, and I was just happy she was there and I was breathing.
Less feeling than usual?
Yeah, less feeling than usual. And then, yeah, the same happened when my sister and my mum came in the next day on Sunday. They just burst out crying. They're just seeing me there, just a lump on the bed, just alive. I couldn't move.
But what goes through your head at this point when you see that?
Oh, mate, it's very difficult to... I think the more I think of it, the more I think that I don't ever want to put my family in that situation again. It's probably not fair for them. They were just experiencing, I'm there and I'm drugged and, it's happened to me and I'm in pain and I've got other things to manage. So, but they were just, I think it's hard when people die because they leave behind others to clear up the shit.
Yeah.
And I just felt so selfish in that situation, mate. I was like, gee, just because I want to do this crazy cycling goal and it's I don't win any money for it. I don't, it's just for me. And they don't get anything from it. And now I'm torturing them with this. It's that's not fair. And that's come a lot around in my mind, mate. I think that was what was there. And it was
I really want to dig into that afterwards. At
some
point.
Maybe we'll have to have another show about it. But yeah, that's what was there. It was just... I was just oh no.
So you're feeling is guilt or...
It's not guilty, mate. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt...
It's a realization, maybe.
A realization. And almost that... Maybe I'd let them down.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd not let them... I can't really put my finger on it at the moment. I've tried to figure it out. But obviously, I think as time passes... Yeah, I'll start to figure more things out and why they happened and how I really felt about them. But yeah, it was just bad, mate. And then, because so the Saturday afternoon, Holly just sat by the bed. I said to the guys, just go. You could see on their faces as well. We crashed at 8:30. It's about 3:34 in the afternoon on Saturday. They're just drained.
Yeah.
Jack used to be a professional cyclist. He's seen a lot of bad stuff. Nick, obviously, as I said, Nick's a captain. Al's a captain for Cathay Pacific, flies 747 aircrafts. These guys know how to deal with trauma. And you could just see their faces and their bodies were just drained from it all. It's probably tough on them as well. And so Holly was just sat there, and I'd doze in and I'd doze out, and I'd wake up screaming. And in that bit, mate, the next 24 hours, every time I sort of dozed off, I'd wake up just wondering if I was going to make it. Because I was still in ICU.
Yeah. And
so you're having flashbacks when you're sleeping to the accident itself. And, you know me, mate, I don't really what if and should have done this, should have done that. I always say, okay, we did it like that, next time we'll do it like this, and life's good. But because I was your subconscious is kind of coming into play, and, 1K faster, 1K slower, 1 inch to the left, 1 inch to the right. What if I'd have hit my head? What if I'd have gone face on? What if I couldn't walk? And then all of those things on top of, well, I'm still trashed. I still got this pipe in. In the first 24 hours, I lost 600 mils of blood. So I had a blood transfusion on the second day to pump blood back into me. And, you then start to think, and you can't, when I was fully conscious or when I was awake, I didn't have the thoughts, but it's like little nightmares when you doze off, and I was dozing off a lot. And, it's like, what if I relapse? What if this lung collapses? I'm still in ICU. I'm not safe yet.
No.
So all of this stuff's going through your head. But then the next day, I spoke to the guys and spoke to Holly, and I was like, the care at Calba was great, but I need to be in Dubai. I need to be at City Hospital. And this was just unreal. Holly was just, I don't know how she kept it together. I think maybe on adrenaline. She's just from 8 o'clock that morning, she was working between that hospital the Calba police, because we needed police reports, my medical insurance provider, and City Hospital to coordinate a transfer back to Dubai. And I was, honestly, mate, on Sunday morning when I woke up, I still couldn't move. But I was like, listen, if it's a problem, we'll just go in the car. That's what I was thinking. I was like, if there's a problem, we'll just go in the car. It's not a big deal. And she just looked at me a bit funny, and I was just like,
how far is Calba from Dubai?
2 hours.
Okay. So that's pretty decent drive.
That's going to be fine. I'll lay on the back seats and it'll be all good. And anyway, it was tough because, again, I didn't really realise, but you're an ICU patient. You're what they put under high risk. And to travel in an ambulance as an ICU patient, you have to have a doctor and a nurse, or a doctor or a nurse, apparently. And City Hospital couldn't send one. They didn't want to send one. Holly's dealing with all this and just going, my husband's almost dead. He this is a scenario. I just want to get him to Dubai. And long story short, we arrived in Dubai at 2 a.m. on Monday morning. So she started the process at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning, trying to get me moved. And at about 11:30 on Sunday night, the ambulance from City Hospital turned up, just with 2 paramedics. They fully examined me, and then they sort of made a decision that they were happy for me to go. Yeah. Before I went, I had to sign a big document saying that what I was doing was incredibly high risk. The doctors didn't support it. There's a good chance that I could have a relapse along the way because the road's bumpy and I have such and such an injury. And I was just so focused on getting to Dubai. And yeah, so we got there at 2 a.m. I don't know if you check into a new ICU unit. It's not like a hospital. It's not like a hotel, but we sort of checked into City Hospital ICU 2 a.m. and I woke up the next morning. There was all sorts of funny stories in the night. We'll save that for another time. I woke up the next morning and the surgeon came in at about 10. And it's funny, mate. I'd already on Sunday, because I hadn't moved since Saturday, I'd already on Sunday night before I went to bed in that hospital, I was like, because I couldn't sit upright in the bed. So I was like, sweet, the goal for tomorrow is simple. All I'm going to do is sit upright in a bed. Because if I can sit upright, I can eat, I was 24 hours without food, but that had passed. I can brush my teeth, I can look at people, because you're just looking at the ceiling. And Monday morning, I woke up and I could just about reach the button on the bed to upright it. And I uprighted it like bit by bit, and I take it, like press it, sit, suck in some oxygen to try and numb the pain, do it a little bit more, and I actually managed to get it upright, which was a massive goal for me, because the previous day in Calba, my mum, when they allowed me to eat, I was grabbing some bits of fruit, but then she was actually having to spoon food into me because I just couldn't get in the right position to eat. I just couldn't move. Nice. So yeah, like small goals right from the start there. And surgeon came in. He said, it's super nice guy again, Namibian doctor, very tall. And he said to me, you've shattered your scapula. It's so damaged that I can't do anything with it. So I'm not going to do surgery. And I was like so relieved. I was like, that's like the best news you've told me. So I just didn't want someone else going in and doing a surgery on me.
So it just leaves itself for healing.
So I said, well, how will it heal? And he said, every movement you make, like how I'm sort of assisting to move my arm now, he said every movement that you make will help to heal it, because it's surrounded by muscles. He said, and the same applies to your ribs. You've fractured a lot of ribs. He said they're all in muscles and tendons. None of them have broken like that, like broken out. Yeah. So they're all just sort of cracked, and they will also heal themselves. He said you have the pipe in your lungs. He said that's going to continue draining. I think over the next, I had that in for 5 days, and I think it drained in the end about 1 liter of blood out and fluid that was just sat on the lungs. And and then I think that was the first point. By about lunchtime on Monday, that was the first point that I felt like I was safe.
Yeah.
because they'd done all these reports and they'd done all these tests, and then the doctors turned around and they said, they came to me, the head of ICU doctor came in and said, we've done all of our analysis and we believe that you're stable enough to leave ICU.
That must have been such a relief, both for you and more importantly for Holly as well.
She was there, and that was just like, I knew that there was a road to recovery, and that it wasn't you have this sort of fairy tale that as soon as you cross that line out of ICU that everything's good again. I was still in a lot of pain, but I was like, wow, that's cool. And I left ICU and went to the main ward on like Monday afternoon.
That is just a crazy journey, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what this injury has meant for your life, like mindset wise, goal wise. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this show, and one of the most interesting things, that you almost not got a second chance to live, but you thought you were close to dying, and now you have a chance to
keep going.
If you're gonna change anything in your life, or what kind of things have been
I guess it's not. I haven't had that moment yet where, I don't know when you have it, or if you have it, or if everyone has it, where I'm going to do this different, or I'm going to do that different. Like I said, when I was laying on the floor just in the immediate aftermath of the accident, and I thought that, or I felt like I wasn't going to make it, I said to myself, like, I don't want to die because I'm enjoying my life, and I feel like I'm living the best life I can. Or I've created a life that I really love. My life's not perfect, but I'm living this best life that I can. And that was the same in the hospital. And I think what I started to say to myself, mate, is how can I get that life back as quick as possible? And immediately, and I started writing them in my phone, I just started setting like a couple of goals for every day.
Okay.
And they were super simple. Like, one day was just doing rotation exercise on my hand. Because in the 2 days after the crash, I couldn't externally rotate my wrist. It was so painful. So I was like, well, I know that I want to put this hand over my head, but it starts from this. So it was really focusing on those micro goals.
Yeah.
And also from the start, one thing that I did is I tried to use my social media as much in my favor as possible. So a lot of people will become a little bit introverted when they have injuries, and they won't share them with people. And I knew that I had a big support network, or I knew that I had quite a big reach within this fitness community locally and like globally as well. And I was like, I'm not looking for sympathy from them, but I knew that if I could absorb some of their energy, then that would be my energy, and it would be my inspiration and my motivation to keep going. So I was like, I'm gonna. Actually, one of the pictures that I sent to one of my friends got, let's just call it, leaked to social media. Like, one of the cycling Instagram accounts posted the picture of me in the hospital bed, which I took basically on the first day, just to see actually what a mess I looked like, to see why everyone's face was going blank when they came in.
Yeah.
And I was a bit weird about that at the start, but then I was like, screw it, I'm going to put it on my Instagram. And I'm going to use all of that energy, because I know I can't make this on my own. And I know my family needs all the support of all the people that follow me and that are around me and all of this. So that was like a two-pronged sort of strategy. It was micro goals, and it was like leverage the support that you've got. So I
like that, and especially using social media as a driver, as something positive, because I think a lot of people just talk negative about social media,
mate.
But you leverage it and used it both to give back to the community, but also to finally ask them to help you,
to help me a little bit. Yeah,
and they did.
And mate, it was literally incredible. Like, I spent the first. And even one of the clients, Mark, was in the gym yesterday. He goes, but you emailed me on Sunday. I was like, yeah, bro, I was in ICU, but like, I could just about On Sunday, it was super hard because I could only use my right hand. So it was very frustrating. It would take a long time to write an email or to do something. And but I had time, so it was almost like, who cares? But yeah, I just got like hundreds of messages, direct message on Instagram. And I said to myself, right, now it's your payback time. Every single person that messages you, you have to message back.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to say thanks or send an emoji to or something like that. So that ate a lot of my time, and that made me consciously read the messages and interact with people and talk to people. And honestly, mate, from the next day, from Sunday afternoon, from Monday, actually Monday, I had 3 or 4 visitors at ICU in Dubai, which it was basically illegal to have visitors there, and they had really strict hours because it's such a dangerous place. And then when I went up to the ward, I had like people just waiting to come into the room until, I don't know what time it was on Monday night, and on Tuesday night. On Tuesday, the first visitor arrived at 9 in the morning, the last one left at 10:30 at night. And I just had literally just, the hospital was freaking out because there was so many people coming in. They're like, you have a lot of visitors, so the risk of like infection and disease because people coming in and out is like a little bit increased and stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay, but you know, and so yeah, guys, just use hand sanitizer and all this stuff. But that was, that saved me, mate, like massively. You know, people that I haven't heard from for 10 or 15 years were messaging me, do you need anything? You know, can I do anything? People that had followed us on, you know, people that followed the show, mate. Like, I'm just so thankful for everyone's support. Like, people that follow the show for 3 or 4 years. A guy in Ireland. I live in Ireland. I follow the show. He's never interacted with us before. That's cool. Some people don't want to. And, you know, he's just like, I just want to wish you the best. I'm like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you know, so it is kind of, it's that whole thing as well, mate. You know, what goes around always comes back around.
Yeah.
Really does. Like, you worked tirelessly. I've worked tirelessly over the last 10 years to build this brand and to try and help make people's lives better. And in that time where I needed that pull up, basically, all these people were there to give it. And, you know, the actual physical benefits of it as well, like the dopamine that you release. Like, some days I literally had to kick people out of my hospital room because they were making me laugh so much that it was so painful, mate. You know, and then we try and talk. Like, now I've got a little bit more capacity in my lungs and I can talk and stuff. But literally at the start, and I sent you guys some voice notes because I went to voice note because typing was so hard.
Yeah.
Like, my voice was just so slow. And I'd say like a 4 words of a longer sentence.
Tell me about it, man. We're shocked.
And I'd just be completely out of breath.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'd have to reset and go again. And yeah, so it was that sort of, it was those little things, mate, just the micro goals every single day. But I didn't look at them as micro goals. I was like, these are your goals now. And I just wrote them down every day, you know, and it's so easy, mate. Like, one of them, because I couldn't brush my teeth at the start, one of them was actually to get back brushing my teeth. And some days it was so hard. Even now, because this hand, my left hand is a little bit dodgy still, like to floss my teeth is very hard. And it's something I do every day. So I was just trying to check in on those things and just trying to occupy my mind. But honestly, the support, the people that came, the people that sent messages from wherever, and, you know, some people are like, oh, I can't make it today, I'll make it tomorrow. I'm like, dude, just come anytime. It doesn't matter, you know.
I mean, has that motivated you even more to continue doing what you're doing? Because essentially, I mean, what you're doing is obviously something that brings a lot of joy to a lot of people, and that's why you receive such a crazy response once people see you hurt.
Yeah, I guess absolutely.
Or maybe reinforce like the joy of, wow, I'm actually here making a difference, and all these people actually care about me. And you didn't know that. I mean, obviously you know that your wife and everyone cares about you, but it's different when you say like some random dude from Ireland or it really motivated me, mate. And so when I was having all those thoughts, when I came off the hard drugs, they removed the catheter and the bag on Wednesday, and I basically just wrote in my Evernote, I just wrote focus. So I wrote under there everything that I feel that I can really focus on
in the next month during my recovery outside of recovering. You know, like how much more can I do with the podcast?
Oh, yeah.
How much more can I do with giving people just really good value through my Instagram? How much better coach can I be? How much better husband can I be? And I just looked at all these things, and yeah, I definitely, mate, like, because I've now realized, I guess, like, focusing a little bit on Instagram and social media, I've realized the reach that we have and the impact that we're able to make, like you said, and the support that we have with those people. Like, I don't want to let them down.
That's why we do it.
Exactly. So I want to make sure that I'm putting out the best stuff. So I want to be, and that's given me more focus, more desire. And it's also made me think, like, it's a crazy story telling it over the last hour on a podcast, but it's not finished. And I don't want it to be fairy tale, but I want to show people that you can get absolutely smashed in life by a truck, literally, and you can come back and you can do epic things again. My epic the last few days has been, like, literally the hardest thing for me. The hardest thing I've had to do is get up off a couch. But at this point in my time, that's my biggest
your
challenge.
Everest.
That's my Everest, mate. But and then we're looking at different challenges now, and when I can do the next one, and but one of the goals that I sort of set with Ben Davies is a 5K run. Like, and if I can run 5K in April, and we're gonna have a sprint finish, that's the idea.
I'm sure.
He's
one arm, like,
he's going to try and beat me, but he's going to do his training all wrong, because all I'm going to do is sprint training. So, but yeah, it is those things, mate. It's that energy that has given me more energy to continue to deliver and continue to just to do what we do, mate. Like, it's more reinforced that what I'm doing is making a difference. Like, because it's funny. I post something, and this is all too much about Instagram, but it's the era that we live in. I post something on my Instagram that I think is super helpful, and I get a little bit of interaction. I post something about me in hospital, which is a tragedy, and it's all smashed up, and suddenly everyone's watching. But they're not. They're watching everything.
Yeah, but they're only
getting bits, like certain. So I'm like, well, I've got to give as much as I can to all of those people. And I don't owe anyone anything, and no one owes me anything, mate. But at the same time, I'm like, this is now time to just go all in and to give everything. And I'm excited. I'm not going to do the Biking Man races. It's not fair to my family. I'll be able to ride a bike again. I'll ride the Turbo Trainer next week. Don't tell Holly. She listens to the podcast about 3 weeks delayed, so that's all right. And she might see me if it's here, though. And I'll ride my bike again. I don't have any problem riding my bike. I don't want to ride too much on the roads at the moment. I want to ride again, for example, in the Alps and all that kind of stuff. I love all of that. But I don't want to. It's not right to do all of the training that needs to be done for Biking Man, and it's very dangerous. And I would hate to be leaving home and for Holly to be worried that I was not going to come back.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to be like that when she went out. It would almost be like when she was flying, that she had a really near miss on the airplane and kept on flying. I would just be shitting myself every time she went up in the air. So
it's not fair.
So it's a little bit back to running, mate. Get fit first, get my body working. I'm excited, and Ben's post last week about his training for life, that gave me a massive boost as well.
Such a great post.
Now my immediate focus is to get fit for life. And whatever that means at that particular point in time, obviously you have to define that. And then this morning I was speaking to Sean Hurley about a possible challenge. A few people have sent me a few different things.
Shout out to Sean Hurley for being an absolute beast and smashing a 100K ultra.
Yeah, he killed it. Yeah,
crazy.
But this is the thing, mate. And I'm sat there in a hospital bed, and I've got him doing that. I've got the guys down at Trias owning the podium. I've got Arij, who's one of my online clients, just knocking 3 minutes off her PR 10K. Like, it puts a lot in perspective of actually what's important in life. And you know what, guys? Sometimes it's not your Fran time, and it's not whether you do black zone or white zone. It's that other shit. You know what I mean? And these guys, mate, they're and you guys, they're all my oxygen to keep on going and to really keep firing towards it. So I guess if it's given me anything, mate, it's given me a lot more. I don't know if I needed more focus, but it's given me a lot of focus and a lot of passion and yeah, I'm excited.
I heard a quote the other day where it says, "Protect what's precious to you."
Yeah.
And what it sounds like is that after this accident, you really realized what is exactly precious to you.
Yes.
And let's talk about Holly is precious to you.
Yeah.
And therefore you got to protect her and your relationship with her.
Yeah.
And therefore you're not going to risk any more, like, or at least not that kind of risk. There's always going to be risk. We can't get out of risk, but
there's always risk.
But I think that protecting it's really a good mental visualization, like understanding to protect something.
Yeah, like, absolutely, mate. And that's the thing. Like, you know, if I turn around and say I'm never going to ride a bike again because it's dangerous and I nearly got killed, well, that's just stupid. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just dumb. But I think we have to protect. We have to manage the risk as good as we can. I'm still going to do like extreme physical challenges.
I'm sure.
Like I don't have any desire not to do that. I'm going to assess them in a different way than I did before. But, you know, I've ridden on that road 50 times in my life. And one time I'm in the wrong time. I'm in, I don't know. I wasn't in the wrong time, wrong place. I was in the right time at the right place.
Yeah.
It happened. And this is what's so ironic. Everything about my story is ironic because the day before I post a picture on Instagram with a quote, "Everything happens for a reason." Like, and then the next day I get smashed off my bike by a freaking truck. You know, it's just so. Yeah, man, I'm excited about my recovery. I'm thankful for everyone that's helped me, for every single person. Some guys came, like Ibrahim came to the hospital like 4 hours one day, 6 hours the next day. Just being there, mate. Their presence made me better. You know, the guys that I cycle with on Friday, they came for like 2 hours before lunch. They went and had lunch. They came back in the evening. Their presence made me better. Holly was waking up early morning, bringing me a cup of coffee. Actually, a week I didn't have coffee. Yeah?
What?
Yeah, from the Saturday to the Friday, I didn't have a cup of coffee. Yeah, mate.
That's rough, man.
Yeah. Lots of Volvic.
That's
no coffee.
Volvic saved you.
Volvic saved me. Well, I was just pumping it the whole time. They're like, you know, we have this hospital water. Holly was bringing in case. She brought me a case of water every single day.
Water snob.
Water snob, yeah. You know, and that stuff, that's motivated me, mate. Everything happens for a reason. People were incredible. Everyone was just incredible. The staff here have been unreal. It's like, yeah, everything's cool. I said to Hannah the other day, I was like, you know what? You were so good last week. Don't change that. Because she normally messages me a million times a day because she wants to make sure she's doing stuff right. And last week she was just silent, making decisions. Nothing changed. The business run. Clients are cool. Everything's good. So
people grow and there's adversity, right?
Yeah, there is, mate. You know, and it is a time, like, it's a time to sort of stand up and do something. And, you know, a lot of people do that. A lot of people see, oh, Marcus had a crash. I'm going to make sure that, you know, I do this. And if I can inspire one person, or one person gets inspired to make a positive change in their life through what I've been through, then that's better than all that pain and no one changing a thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that's, again, I'm not just trying to see the positive in it, but it is what it is. And there are a lot of positives in it. And it happened. And I'm recovering. You know, and today I have 4 or 5 podcasts to do. And that's fine. You know, it's the way it goes. But, mate, this is like the longest podcast ever.
We're super happy to have you back, and we're grateful that you're safe, man.
Yeah.
This has been a really good show. I hope that the listeners will like it and at least get some insight on what happened and when it went on and what went through your head at the moment. You know, now what the future brings for Marcus Smith. And
we can probably talk for another 2 or 3 hours, and I'm yet to decide. Like, this is good. Someone told me, Mohammed told me that during the immediate aftermath, it's always a lot better that you speak about stuff. And I've never spoken about my emotions. The first ultra, the big ultra that I failed at, I never told anyone what I was feeling. And it was probably my biggest mistake. So I'm super happy talking about this. And I got to figure out how I can sort of, again, help as many people through through the tragedy that I went through to get better. So that's the goal. Maybe we'll do another show about different things.
I'm sure.
Mate, that's the longest show ever. 1 hour and 5 minutes.
Man, you've been talking a lot. Thanks for sharing everything.
I'm tired now. Cool, mate. Thanks for the questions, and thanks for you guys listening. If you do have questions that you want to hit me with, winning@innerfight.com. As always, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks a lot, guys, for all of your support. Love you all. Awesome.